Well, hello, family and friends, online community, marketplace of the world. It's me, holistic life educator Shona Dennis. How are you today on this Tracking Tuesday? That's right, we want to keep balance and synergy and functionality in our lives. Thank you for tuning in and meeting at the well. When we meet at the well, we bring our humanness, we bring our live life experiences, our life narratives, and we engage everything with good, solid, holistic resources in the world because a mighty good God has given us good things in the helping profession and with the helping professionals. He's also given us a great thing in the Word of God, the Bible, a life transformative book for my life. Hopefully you will allow it to be a life transformative book for your life, your children, your children's children, and your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Everybody and anyone God is sending your way. Once again, my friends, thank you for meeting at the well, allowing me to speak words of substance to shape your spirit, your consciousness, and the movement of your day. Guys, I'm excited. Are you ready to rumble? Get your notepad, pencil, paper, iPhone, smartphones, whatever you need to do to take good notes, because taking good notes is always a benefit. God has given me something profound and original and innovative for you to put in your life skill toolbox, and I'm excited. Our topic today is living in the uns, U-N-S, living in the uns, the uninformedness, the unawareness, the unconsciousness, the uneducated. We live so much in the uns. And guess what? It's in you. That's right. It is in you. You know, my friends, there's a cost to living in the uns. The uninformed, the unconsciousness, the unawareness, uneducatedness. There's a cost and a consequence and a challenge before me and you ever get to change and transformation. So I'm so excited to share with you a little bit of my life, because we're all in this together. We're all human. It's human relatable. So are you ready to rumble? Let's get started. Well, my friends, here we go. One of the most adverse human obstacles and challenges is how our brain has been hardwired, and how our brain influences our mind, and then as the mind goes, the body follows. It influences our mind, our body, our soul, our spirit, our emotions. One of the most adverse human obstacles and challenges will be understanding your brain, understanding how your brain works for you and how your brain works against you, my friends. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Well, I'll open up with a quote. Maya Angelou said, "Forgive yourself for not knowing what you did not know before you learned it." That's me, that's you. Forgive yourself for what you just didn't know. We can't ding you for what you didn't know. But now that you have learned it, AAA, you got an awareness, you got an awakening, and now you got accountability. Now that you have learned some things, you are accountable for what you have learned. And let me share with you, my friends, I'm 47 fabulous, 47 years old, but it was only at 43 that I became educated. Before that, I was kind of uneducated in my awareness of myself. I was uneducated in the awareness of myself. Know thyself. So it was only until I went to Delray, Florida, and I was a behavior educator at the drug awareness facility for those in addiction recovery. That was really when my education started about myself, understanding the terminology, understanding myself on a more deeper unconscious level, understanding my behavior patterns, understanding cognitive dispositions. I didn't know the terminology to the things I was thinking and how I was feeling and the way I was acting. Living in the uns, uninformedness, unconsciousness, unawareness, uneducated. We got to get out of the uns. Let's do a little experiment together. I want you to finish this line. Here we go. You ready? Roses are red. I bet you said violets are blue. Well, that's how automatic our brain has, wired us. So we learned that little phrase, that little line when we were children. But how long has it been before you heard roses are red, violets are blue? It's been a while, but your brain completed the sentence. As soon as I said roses are red, your mind said violets are blue, whether you said it or not. An automatic response, my friends. Those automatic responses can be wonderful. They can be useful, but they do not always serve you well. Write that down. Automatic brain responses do not always serve us well. Once again, that's one of the most adverse human obstacles and challenges, is understanding how our brain is influencing and impacting our lives from the past to the present, and will impact our future. So you see, our minds just kind of moved right along in response. Roses are red, violets are blue. Sugar is sweet and so are you. Our mind moved along in that response as if all of that was true. But guess what? You ready for me to bust your bubble, the myth buster? Da-da-da-da. Roses aren't always red. Roses are yellow. Go to Walmart. They're yellow, they're pink, they're white, they're blue. They could be any color you want them to be. But they're not always red. But the brain works to tell us that roses are red. Some of y'all will even get in an argument about roses being red. Roses are not always red. And because they are yellow, pink, and white, and orange, and peach, and all those colors, those are the areas, that yellow, pink, white, blue, those areas, those other areas of truths, those are the areas unknowingly that do not automatically come to us. That's the area of uninformedness, uneducated, unaware. See, roses are other colors. Just like in areas of our lives, we got some areas that are yellow, pink, and white, but the brain don't tell us that. The brain doesn't point us in those directions, doesn't show us the blind spots, doesn't show us the areas that we're still ignorant in, doesn't show us the areas where there are other truths and other angles, other options, other alternatives. Our brain likes to go to automatic. And those automatic responses are sometimes, and a lot of times, hindering us and affecting our lives in such a dramatic way. And see, roses are red, violets are blue. The brain response brings that phrase up, whether it's true or not. Whether it's true or not. So there's some areas in your life, write that down. There's some areas in your life, in my life, that we've been thinking and believing and manifesting and operating in. And some of the areas, some of the things we're thinking, some of the ways that we feel are not even true. Feelings aren't always facts. But the brain doesn't always serve us well. So we got to begin to educate ourselves about ourselves. That means we got some root work to do, my friends. Living in the uns. We all are living in the uns. Living in unconsciousness, in uninformedness, unawareness, uneducated. Are you with me? Make sure you write something in the comment box, because I'm teaching. I'm using my life as well as information to help enhance and elevate, give your life a hand, pull you up. That's right. So these type of automatic responses, get this thinking, this behaviors, these things can cause a wide range of problems in our life that you're not even thinking about. Here we go. So on a large scale, living in the uns affects how you think, your beliefs, how you perceive things, your relationships, how you operate with people in church, at work, your behavior patterns. Let's see what I got. Your habits, your families. These things impact your family, your happiness, your contentment, communities. You see, when we live in the uns, uninformedness, unconsciousness, unawareness, uneducated, when we live in those areas, it's hard for us to be better. It's hard for us to be whole. It's hard for us to continue on in passion and purpose. It's hard for us to get quicker to destination and destiny. It's hard for us to make a better contribution to the world. Yeah. So here's the first life nugget. I need you to write this down. Here's the first life nugget. Number one, how have you been hardwired? Please write it down. Think about it. How have you been hardwired? We're talking about root work from the origins, family of origins, the things that you have caught and been taught. We're talking about the power of the soil. How have you been wired? I don't care how old you are right now. If you're 10, 15, 30, 55, 80, how have you been wired? If you're still living, you still got time to change and elevate and transform your life. How have you been wired? That's the first life nugget you need to write down. Because a lot of us are not thinking about this. We think we're okay. We think, well, I'm not as messed up and jacked up as they are. No, 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 no. Oh, you got some dysfunction. You got some baggage. You got some trauma. It might not be like everybody else's trauma, but you got something. You're living in the uns in some area of your life. 2 Timothy 1:5, Paul told Timothy, I remember the sincere faith that was in your grandmother Louise and in your mother Eunice. So see, in each one of us, the groundwork, the power of the soil, the things we were born into, the intergenerational things that have been passed on and that you have inherited. Some is good, some is bad, some is dysfunctional. And we need to get better at learning more of it about ourselves, because for some people, it's really hindering you. You're really struggling. You're trying to figure out, why am I this way? You don't have the terminology to put with why you think that way, why you speak that way, and why you behave that way. You don't have the terminology. You don't have the educatedness. That might not even be a word. You're not educated on yourself. You're not informed about yourself. You're not aware of yourself on an unconscious level as well. And see, I've had to practice this and put in the work, and I sit with myself. I notice myself, because a lot of times we wonder about the mountaintop. We wonder what's past the horizon, but we just wander right on past ourselves. So we got to stop doing that. Moving on. That same mind and brain process, that same automatic mind and automatic brain process, it does help me and you remember. It helps us to retain things. It helps us to recognize things. But at the same time, those same automatic brain processes will drown me and you in misery and in anxiety and depression and heartache and even physical pain. And you're trying to figure out what's going on with me. I don't understand it. A lot of times it's your brain hardwiring. If you feel negative all the time, or sad all the time, or down all the time, a lot of times it's because you have been practicing these behaviors and thought processes that you have hardwired your brain. It has become a brain habit. So you feel negative because you think negative and you speak negative. The brain. And so I talked with a 23-year-old soldier recently, and he was dealing with some social limitations. He was on a small spectrum of autism, and he was really having a hard time in the military as a young, single, black soldier. And he asked me, he says, why can't I be normal? Why can't I be a normal human? I said, let me tell you something. You are a normal human. It's not your fault that you was born the power of the soil. You was born into however you in your mother's womb, shaped with however, brain factors that you were born with. That's not your fault. You are a normal human. But what you need to do, young soldier, I said, you need to learn more about yourself. Learn your social limitations, your social miscues. Advocate for yourself. When you go onto a job or when you're dealing with people, help them to understand who you are and how you are. So they won't treat you so standoffish or like as weird or, how people are. And then I heard another individual, a 27-year-old, say to me, I'm very negative. I know it. I think negative and I got to get better at being positive. So I said, so you're a pessimistic person? He says, oh, yeah. I said, well, that's not going to. I said, you handsome. 27-year-old, white, single, handsome male. I said, but that kind of disposition and ways of thinking and being will not make you attractive. And so I said, we got to deal with that. That's a brain habit. You got to not just, he says, well, I just got to think more positive. I said, no, you got to do more than that. You got to go sit down with yourself and figure out, where is this coming from? What is the connections and the brain associations that this is connected to from your past, probably from your childhood somewhere, that you're very negative. So you see, living in the uns, uninformedness, unconsciousness, unawareness, uneducated about oneself. So let me be a little bit transparent. So I too can struggle relationally, and I was struggling relationally with myself. My first relationship was with myself, so I was struggling relationally with myself, and then in my marriage, and I'm trying to figure out what is going on because I'm very empathetic, meaning I show a lot of empathy. I can easily feel for the next person and get in and read their energy and their body language and look in their eyes and kind of perceive something from their soul. God gifted me that way, giving me, that discernment. And so I'm very empathetic. I can be emotional, not like, wimpy emotional, but very emotional. And I'm very relational. But at the same time, I struggled first with myself and then with others. And you know why? Because all of us have experiences. We got to go back to the origins. Go back to your childhood. That's the first place. FOO, family of origins. Go back to your childhood. And from those little bitty experiences, from baby, infant, on up, those are the building blocks to your inner world. Now, if nobody's talking and teaching you this, then you won't know this. That'll be uninformed, uneducated. You just won't know. We can't ding you for what you don't know. But these things are the building blocks to your inner world. And so this is what's happening for the things that you have caught as a child on up and you were taught. These things unawarely governed and wired your brain. Every time you learned something, every time you felt something, every time you were speaking things, you were learning something from these experiences. Good, bad, traumatic, dramatic. And this wiring was even physically stored in in the brain, which is called neurons. This wiring is stored in neurons, which the neurons are responsible for forming the unconscious mind. Those neurons and neurotransmitters, those things are responsible for forming also the unconscious mind. And our brain has been given some authority. The brain is running the show. The brain is the command center. Our brain has been given some great deal of authority to interpret our world, interpret our experiences, interpret how we think and feel when we're with people and around people. And that's why, my friends, Matthew 7, Jesus opened up with, do not judge. Because a lot of times we judge people hypocritically through our own brain working and wiring, through our own biases and prejudices and our own feelings. And we don't judge righteously, as the Bible tells us in John chapter 7. If you're going to make a judge on somebody, judging their fruit, a lot of times we don't understand their motives or intentions, but we can still see your fruit now. But a lot of times when we judge, we're judging from a lot of hard wiring and works and experiences that help us not start from a righteous place, a objective place. We go subjective, but God wants us to be righteous, objective. He wants us to come from a place of scripture, discernment, and wisdom. All right. So moving on. So what happens when we go through all these experiences and these things are wired in our neurobiology, our makeup in our brain? The conscious mind is unaware of these workings. The conscious mind is just unaware of all the stuff that the brain is doing. And that's why we need a AAA, an awareness, awakening, and accountability, because we got to be aware of this. We got to awaken to it. And then we got to be accountable, meaning we got to execute. So number 2, life nugget, you have a personal memory system. Write that down. You have a personal memory system. Your mind, not somebody else's mind. Your mind is unique, distinct, and it can also be dysfunctional. Your memory system can be very dysfunctional depending on your brain workings, your brain interpretation, depending on your experiences, starting from childhood, family of origins, the soil that you was born into. That's right. So your personal memory system, you need to become aware of that, educated on that, informed on that, conscious of that. And so my memory system, back to me, my memory system, when we're talking about the first relationship with me, myself, and then, even your relationship, the priority relationship with God, and then the relationship with others, my memory system a lot of times can become negative emotionally. on an emotional level. And what I mean is that I can be affected really deeper, longer, and quicker. I can be triggered really quicker because for whatever reason, my memory system immediately transports me back and makes a vivid, immediate connection to something that happened to me in my childhood, adversely, or my teenage life, or in my young adult life. Immediately I'm there, and it attaches a feeling, an emotion, and I normally end up feeling more pain than maybe the normal person would because I'm very empathetic. I end up quickly responding impulsively or irrationally sometimes. So that's what I'm talking about. Write that down. You have a personal memory system. It's unique, it's distinct, but it can also be dysfunctional. So maybe you've had some negative reactions and behaviors, in your life, and you've realized these things. A lot of people don't realize these things because they're not sitting with themselves. They're not studying themselves. And so what happens is then you start to deal with unprocessed and unresolved memories. That was my ordeal, dealing with unprocessed and unresolved memories. So as I said, my personal memory system transports me back to my original injuries a lot of the time, from childhood, teenage, young adult, because there was some suffering there. There was some very traumatic suffering. There was a lot of lacks. There was some neglect. There was love, but that love needed some informedness and some education and some awareness. So I have a lot of unprocessed, unresolved memories, and you do too. It's called inner child wounds and inner child trauma. It's called little girl hurts and little boy hurts. And so what happens is when you experience something in the present, your personal memory system, not everybody, but some people, a lot of the people, can take you back really quick to the unprocessed and the unresolved memories. And so the memory is stimulated all over again. And it goes to the area in the brain for some people that those memories still hold the emotions, still holds the physical sensation. It still holds the beliefs. And that becomes the issue of the problem right there. That right there is what's hindering you and holding you back and making you feel stuck and making you feel pain all over again, all over again, all over again. So you got to find these connections from the past to the present. You got to find these connections and brain associations. You really do. Because if not, the brain will have the authority to interpret everything. And so that's why we want to get to a whole place, a holistic place, a better place. Living in the uns. And am I helping you? Unawareness, uninformedness, uneducated, unconsciousness. I'm almost through. So, when I'm in that place, I can feel pity parties. I can lash out. I can feel sad. I could be the victim. I could be the abuser. You could be the victim. You could be the abuser. You could be sad, lashing out, pity parties, all those things. Because, one, we're living in the uns. We're not really aware. We're not really informed. We're living unconsciously, and we're not educated on what's going on with the brain, speaking down to the parts of the body and the emotions and our soul and our spirit. So here we go. Here's the solution. We always want to give people solutions. So here's my solutions for you today. Number one, we're going to explore and identify memory connections. This is the skill set. Explore and identify memory connections. Not just where it came from. Not that it just happened to you from in your family or this happened to me. No, explore and identify this memory connection. This is a memory from the past that affects my present. Why? Identify and explore that memory connection on a holistic level, spiritually, socially, mentally, emotionally. Number two, accountability, which means simply execution. What do I do about this? Some of you just need to raise your voice. Some of you just need to vent. You need to speak out. You need to tell your story. You need to talk because we overcome by the power of our testimony. You need to share in a safe place. And remember this, the right people hear you differently. Don't go trying to talk to people who can't communicate really, or they're tired or burnt out of hearing about your pain or your story. You need to go somewhere where it's safe and secure emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The helping professions. Remember, God gave us good things in the helping professions and the helping professionals. So you might need to talk to a counselor, a therapist, a life coach, the pastor, or just that friend that you can trust. And then number 3, I'm saying that you need to study your feelings and your fears. Study your feelings and your fears. Follow your feelings. Follow those fears and get to the origins once again. Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Because I need to be conscious about this, informed, aware, and educated. Don't live in the yawns. That's why Matthew 7 says, take the plank out of your eye before you can help take the sawdust out of somebody else's eye. So many of us got planks, big planks in our eyes, metaphorically speaking. We got a lot of things that we just have not done the work on, and a lot of us don't know we need to do the work on. But today you need to have an awareness. You need to get woke today and realize, yes, you're not exempt. You have trauma, you have baggage, you have dysfunctions, you have lacks. You are uninformed. You have blind spots. You're not educated on every part and every aspect about yourself. No one is. Just like the Bible says, there's no one that's righteous, and that we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So identify that brain barrier. Identify those brain barriers. Understand yourself at a brain networking level, as well as your body, your emotions, your spirit, your soul. Well, my friends, that's pretty much what I have to share with you today. I hope I did a pretty good job. I've given you what God has given me, living in the yawns. So thank you for tuning in and meeting at the well.